everybody. Welcome to another Friday Night Live. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for the questions. So this week, our question of the week is, what do I do about other people's expectations of me? And that's kind of a loaded question because I see a few different things going on. It's great to have mentors and trusted friends that we go to, like you go to your sister. And I go to you know who out there. But we kind of have to ask ourselves a couple questions. Are we allowing our wisdom to come through? We talked about wisdom, I think, a couple weeks ago. And these other individuals, are they pinning their well-being onto what you do, say, act? And we talked about that as well. So what do you think, Rudi? Over to you.
Over to me. I guess with expectations, the worst kind of expectation is your own expectations of yourself. So if you expect yourself to handle something better, if you expect yourself to achieve something you haven't achieved, if you expect other people to act a certain way and they don't, it can lead to a lot of unhappiness, resentment, disappointment. And then because we're thinking that thinking, we're feeling that feeling, and we're living in the feeling of those thoughts flowing around our heads, and it's not a very nice experience. And so the opposite of expectations is kind of like not expecting yourself to expect anything. And then you're just flowing through life, doing the best you can. Other people are doing the best that they can. And there's more of an unconditional life. And an unconditional life doesn't mean to say you don't try and become, achieve anything. It doesn't mean to say you have opinions about other people. It just means you're less agendaed to things being a certain way. And when you're less agendaed to things having to be a certain way for you to feel okay, you've got freedom. Because freedom is knowing that you're worthy, knowing that you're doing the best you can, knowing that other people are doing the best they can without agenda. In fact, the only way we can ever really have psychological freedom is having less expectations on ourselves and others. And when we can do that for other people, guess what? We can love them. And I think from my perspective, when we're supportive and we're loving and we draw out in the other person who they are, what they want to do, what makes them happy, what makes them alive, and we support them in that, there's connection and there's peace. When we're conditional with people, you need to do this, you have to do that, it can lead to a sense of, I'll only love you if, you're only cool when. Now, I mean, this is different. If you're a parent, yes, I remember my sister having to kind of really get one of her sons to do his work, and so she was like a drill sergeant on him, and that's needed. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about very, very generally in our family, in our relationships. It's the lack of expectations that allows a truer sense of loving them, supporting them, drawing out of them. And then you find they may not do what you want them to do, but they do what they want to do. And what they want to do is so important, because no one can trump your own wisdom. Within everybody is an inner sat-nav, an inner guidance that directs them, and they're the only ones that have that. You don't have that. You think you can have that, but you don't. If you can steer them away from what you're doing back to what they want within, what their heart's desire is.
That goes to say that's going back to your own relationship within yourself. And it's amazing how when we stay true and stay aligned and actually navigate life using our own internal guidance system. And we know when we're in alignment by the way we feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how other relationships just seem to come into balance alongside of us. And it's the sympathetic resonance that we emanate. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, sympathetic resonance basically means that if you've got, say, guitar and you hit like the D string, a guitar over the other side of the room, the D string will start resonating even though you haven't touched it. Like tuning forks, you bang one and the other starts vibrating even though you haven't physically touched that. So there's this sympathetic resonance happening. And if you look at who we are, basically we're an electrobiological field of intelligence. We use electricity. There's 17,000 billion cells. No, 17,000 billion chemical reactions happening every second in the body, and all that happens via electricity. And so we're these electrical fields, and we resonate. There's a resonance, there's a magnetic resonance. So that resonance is going out into the world, and just by sympathetic resonance, there's nothing that we're doing. We're tuning and aligning with similar resonances. That's how often when you're a certain kind of a person, you have an insight, you change, you have a big life experience and you're different, you kind of naturally start attracting different situations or different people to you.
It's a relationship between two things.
Yeah. And so when you're in alignment with your heart, when you're in alignment with what's true for you, there's a way in which the outside world, there isn't really an inside and outside, but for words, with the outside world starts resonating in harmony with you, and you start bringing towards you, start creating things in line with who you really are, but it has to come from your heart. So if people have big expectations on you and you kind of feel a bit, oh, I don't know if I can do this, just do it if you want to do it.
Right.
Like if you really resonate with that, absolutely work and achieve and become and do whatever you want to do. If it doesn't feel right for you, it's because your inner resonance isn't coupling with this outer in the field resonance.
Right. It goes back to the relationship within ourselves and are other people pinning their well-being into what you do and say.
Yeah.
And in a sense, if we are concerned about that, we are doing the same thing as well. We're pinning our well-being into making sure that we make them happy. But when we leave that all aside and we just sort of focus on that internal sat-nav, that internal guidance system, the feeling, the way that we feel, there's a heart connection. When we leave our thoughts and our busy, chaotic thinking, let that just sort of float by, we fall back into our heart space. And from there, our wisdom just bubbles up. It's a feeling, and it's a feeling of peace and love. And then we start to see the world a little bit clearer. It's like putting on a pair of clarity glasses. Things just start to make sense, and we can see how when people are struggling, and that's, we'll talk a little bit about when people struggle, Rudi. What does that mean? What's going on inside of them when people are struggling?
For instance, my father, he's passed away now, so I'm allowed to talk about it. My father really wanted me to be a big CEO of a multinational company and drive a huge car and have loads of money in a big house. What happened? I gave being an athlete a go, injured myself, and then became a travel photographer. I was traveling all over the world to third world countries, and I've travelled to like dozens and dozens of countries.
And he was on QVC.
And ended up talking about this stuff, which is basically how the mind works and not really who we are, but what we are, this power within. So I didn't have a big car and I didn't have a big house. So it went against my father's expectations. My father's voice was in my mind. What am I going to do about a pension? I don't own a house. I don't have many savings. I'm not achieving much materially. So I've always had my father's voice floating around within my mind. But when I looked at my father had that and he was really unhappy. And not to say that if you've got that, you're going to be unhappy. It's more to your perception of what you've got rather than what you've actually got. But being in alignment with love, it doesn't matter what you have or haven't got, or what you do or what you don't do. There's freedom regardless. And where suffering comes in is when you're attaching your well-being to things in the world or other people being a certain way, and it's not happening for you. There's suffering. It's a misplaced sense of self. When you wouldn't build a house on quicksand because you know it's going to sink, but we build our confidence, our well-being, our hope on things out there. And things out there are impermanent. They change. Things don't happen. Houses can fall down, get burnt down. You can lose your job. You have to come back within, back to a bedrock where you can build a house and it will be secure. And that bedrock is your own awareness of who and what you are. It's within. It's always within. It can't be anything other than within.
Right. It's kind of like looking in a mirror, seeing that you have mud on your face and trying to clean the mirror. It just doesn't work. It's all about the relationship within ourselves. The connection to the wisdom within. And with that comes clarity. With that becomes a feeling of peace and love. There's a heart connection, and we can tell. Use your internal guidance system. Trust in the wisdom that you have. We all have it. It just gets pinched off.
One of the definitions of wisdom is to see things as they are, rather than what they're not. The only way we can see things as they are is to realize what and who we are. And insight into that allows our external world to unfold in a way that's in alignment with us. So if people have big expectations of you, love them, but do what's in your heart.
Yeah.
It's the only way. It's the only way.
And with that relationship with ourselves, when we approach people or when people approach us with huge expectations and they aren't that trusted mentor or that person that we go to, we kind of know that there's suffering going on within them. Because we see clear and we see that they're attaching their well-being into what we do and say. And that's kind of a difficult place to live.
Yeah. So, wrapping up. Any words of wisdom?
I believe it goes back to the relationship within yourself. Follow that feeling of peace. That's when you know you fall back into the heart connection. And you have everything that you'll ever need inside of you, always and forever.
And if you're ever confused about what that is, take some time out. Allow your mind to quiet and allow that wind of consciousness to blow through your mind and tell you what its heart's desire is. And courageously put one foot in front of the other. And I can tell you it will lead you on a pathway to the most beautiful life, the most miraculous, beautiful, colourful life that you can possibly imagine. It's a life of love.
That's beautiful.
Anyway,
I think that's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the questions. I hope that answered that question, and we really appreciate it. And we're going in order by when they're received. Yeah. So your question, if you're waiting for it, it's coming.
All right. Lots of love to you all.
Thanks.
Bye for now.
Bye.